Everybody, it's your main man, it's your Ace Boom Coon, it's your guy. I'm your dude, you my people that come and watch me as strong inspirations where you know what I do. I give it to you straight, no chaser. I let the people tell the stories. I just find them. And I just asked a few questions. Because check it out. What happened is, I come to realize that, a lot of times we talk about, we don't know our history, we don't tell it, we always come up with something we don't do. And you can't say that no more. Now that Strong Inspirations is bringing it to you. You can't say that you can't find the history. Let me tell you something. I got this guy on the channel today. He gonna knock it out the box. Let me tell you something. What happened was I found him somehow. He was online. I saw it and something. I said, man, he'd be a good guy to have come on the channel. So I hit him up, sent him a message. He sent me one over the weekend, which was good. He sent me a message, say, man, call me. So I called him. He said, man, let's go on now. He said, let's come now. I ain't got to wait. I know what I'm talking about because this is what he does. You're going to be really, 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 really impressed to hear the stories they got. And I'm going to go deep on this guy. Watch. I ain't fooling with him, and I know he can handle it. Strong Inspirations. I'm Anthony Brogdon. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button on this video. He gonna jam on you. Watch out. Hit the notifications bell. When the videos come up, you get a ding, a smoke signal, or something to let you know that there's more on Strong Inspirations. Before he come on, let me ask y'all folks, did you see the video I did with the guy who found out his grandfather was in the KKK and he killed the guy in the Elaine massacre? So my man wrote a book about it, and he said I never spoke to him again. He didn't know his grandfather was that way. Did you see the one I did with the guy who found out he's in Mobile, Alabama? It's a town called Africatown. His great grandfather was on that last slave ship. He tells all the story. He said he talked to him too. Watch that, because the guy, this is 1860. He was 11 years old. And the guy that came on, he's older. Either he talked to him or his father. His father told him the stories. And he works in that industry. Check out Africatown. Go to that video. Did you see the one that I did with the guy who talks about weeping times? Have you heard of that, my friends? Well, in short, there was a big plantation owner. He had over 500 enslaved blacks on his property. He had a gambling problem, lost a lot of money, had to make some money, and he sold 250 of them in 2 days. The largest slave sale there was. And you know why they call it weeping times? Because it rained. It rained both days. Torrential rain. And it was sunny before the event happened. Guy got away. Watch that video. One more. Did you see the one I did with Josh Gibson's great grandson? Oh, I'm jamming. It's Strong Inspiration. And this brother right here, he's serious. He gonna tell it to you. We jamming here. Josh Gibson's great grandson. Let me tell you what he said. One of the things he said, man, the white people came to our games. We was packing them stadiums, which was part of the reason. It was economics why they decided to have black players. They said, man, them players are playing better than our boys, and people want to see that. Here comes Jackie Robinson. Oh, but by the way, I got a video with a guy. He says Jackie Robinson was not the first black in the Major League Baseball. There was another guy that went to college in Brown. He looked white, though. They didn't know. Asked him to play. He said, yeah, he only played one day, but he had a black mom. Watch that video. Oh, we're not playing here. Oh, no. And watch what this guy's got to tell you. He got his crafts on the shelf behind him. He is one of the best at it in America. Watch. I'm gonna have him tell the story. So let me say this. My Black History Festival in Kansas City has been canceled. It hurts my heart. I got to get down there. I don't look like I'm gonna make it, but the virus is kind of uptick. You know, you hear the stories and so on and so forth, and participation was kind of low. But I'm coming at you. I no, there's no give up here. We're gonna rock it. Y'all gonna want to come. It's gonna get big on us too. So that's the latest on there. You all know that I have a book out called Black Business Book on the Rise of Black Business in America. I have a documentary out titled Business in the Black. So you can learn all about what I'm doing on my website, businessintheblack.net. I invite you to follow me on Twitter at A Strong Dream. I'm not playing with you. I'm giving it to you. I'm coming hard and harder every day. I think about you all the time. Now, one more thing. You know I like that word strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I wish my middle name was Strong. Strong in my world stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to my guest today. He's a strong soul, brother. Watch out, people. Come on, brother. Introduce yourself. We're going to get it on. This going to be good.
All right. I want to thank you for having me. We're gonna get into it today about the Gullah heritage and why it's so unique and how it's so proudly kept alive generationally. I'm Corey Alston. I'm from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I'm right here on the intercoastal, on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina, between Charleston and Myrtle Beach.
Okay. Couple questions. Are you Gullah Geechee yourself?
I'm Gullah. I'm Gullah by bloodline. I'm Gullah because
really?
Yeah, my grandfather, you know, and so generationally, you either part of it or you're not, and I'm a part of it.
Okay, we're gonna get into that. But were you born where you are now? Where were you born?
Correct. Mount Pleasant, South Carolina is my home. Born and raised, 6 generations.
Oh my God! So do you know where the plantation is in your family?
I do. Now it's known as the Wando Ports Authority. So now there's going to be one of the place where the longshoremen work and bring in goods to the state. At one time, it was an active plantation dating back to the mid 1800s.
Okay, give us a little idea for those who haven't been there. Okay, so you got America. You got, I know, North and South Carolina. You're in South Carolina. You're on the closer to North Carolina, the middle part. Where about?
The map of the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor, as we are in this, we're the center of the corridor as it goes north and south of the Charleston area. But that corridor is actually what we're so proud to be a part of, as it known as where the areas has been kept alive of different little pockets: Savannah, Beaufort, Brunswick, Jacksonville, Wilmington, Georgetown, Little River. My little community name is Mount Pleasant.
How close are you to the ocean?
I'm a half a mile from the ocean. So our community, the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor, is a coastal community of one county inland from the ocean. So as you stretch from Jacksonville, Florida to Jacksonville, North Carolina, we're one strip of land that goes right along the coast. Right. And that is the corridor running along Highway 17 north and south.
Okay. You alluded that you're 6 generations. So you've gone back to when to find out your family is from there?
Correct. And so the family has been keeping the history, the lifestyle, harvesting, collecting, hunting, fishing. That lifestyle of Gullah life has been a part of my family for many generations. I then married into the basket side of the heritage as I was dating my girlfriend at the time. Her grandmother gave the green light and allowed me to then become a weaver, even more engulfed into the heritage as I was a young teen, turned into a young adult. Now I'm still weaving 20 years later.
Okay, we're going to get into weaving. Let me ask you this. I've had people come on at Gullah Geechee. They told them stop talking that way. Did they tell you that?
Something that we more choose to, because a lot of times it's misinterpreted as a form of ignorance or Ebonic or broken English. And so as we are taught the Queen's English during our grammar, during grade schools, we're taught how to pronunciate words so-called right, and that's the Queen's English. But at the same time, learning that Queen's English, we're losing our native dialect. Our native dialect is Gullah, and that language is an accredited national language that's been passed from generation to generation within the household. So it's not something you learn in school. It's something you hear from your mothers and your grandmothers and big uncles and big moms. And so that's a native language. And a lot of times when people are not aware of native languages, they think it's broken English or Ebonics or speaking. So a lot of us just choose not to speak it in public because of that.
Now, I have a lady on the channel. She's out of St. Simon's Island, and Helen Latson. Helen says she's not sure if she's Gullah. How can somebody find out if that's their case or not? Is there such a way?
It would be based on the geographic location of where their ancestors before her generation would have lived at, not going back to days of enslavement. So let's say, for instance, St. Simon, that is within the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor.
Right.
Say her family has lived there generationally, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 generations, then yes, she is Gullah. Now, at one time, you had people to distinguish themselves as Geechee or distinguish themselves as Gullah. In 2006, there was a documentation of the land masses stretching from those areas of Jacksonville to Jacksonville, realizing that lifestyle was very similar in all those states, all 4 states, as that coastal community has been thriving since 1865. As slavery was abolished, those enslaved Africans stayed around the coast to live the lifestyle of what they were doing before being enslaved. And so generationally, that passing from parent to child, that makes them who they are. As is understood, the Georgia and Florida folk would call themselves Geechee. They feel like that came from the Ogeechee River, one of the major rivers of the Georgia coast, that a lot of freed Africans settled around that area, known as the Ogeechee River, took on the word Geechee. And then in the Carolinas, north and south, they felt like more of a Gullah tribe of Africa. A lot of those enslaved Africans were from that area, or also coming from the country of Angola. And so those collectively made that term Gullah as far as the Carolinians. So then in 2006, a group of researchers came together, recognizing that the Geechee lifestyle, Gullah lifestyle, was so similar that they became one word, one name, one group, one culture. Gullah Geechee.
I got you. Let me ask you, so can you trace back to where Africa is? That, like you said, Angola, is that where your ancestors are from? Do you know that?
So we can trace it back based on, for instance, the weaving, the skill set of weaving. This is something that would have been found on the West Coast, around the Sierra Leone, Angola, Ivory Coast. The Rice Coast is what most people call it. And with the Rice Coast was a separate voyage of seeking out for enslaved Africans based on soils of America, soils of the New Worlds, what they called it. So as they discovered Charleston, or stole Charleston, if you would, they also realized to make Charleston rich, they would have to enslave certain Africans that would grow crops around water. That took into the transatlantic slave trade of the rice cultivators. So those rice cultivators were then enslaved. There was eating rice, growing rice, winnowing rice, thousands of years before being enslaved. As the Europeans then went out around the early 1700s and gathered those Africans, enslaved them, brought them to the coast of Charleston to make what now is known as Charleston, one of the richest southern cities of the South. And it's because of off the back of enslaved Africans with the skill set of rice cultivating. Not only growing rice, they also used that flat basket behind me, known as a fanner, and that was what used to fan the rice or clean the rice, winnow the rice. And so as I was married into the skill set of weaving, a part of my Gullah heritage that I didn't have as a generational kid of Gullah, I learned from my in-laws how to keep the weaving style alive, the weaving skill set alive. And that's now what I'm known for, is either doing public discourse or weaving brass baskets.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you don't mind, we're gonna highlight the weaving for sure. How do you cultivate rice? Is rice? What is, you know what I mean? I ain't never seen it. So how does that
So
happen?
that's a skill of, once again, the enslaved. The enslaved, they taught the Americans how to, the Europeans how to do so by flooding the fields and then draining the fields. So they will mostly do that with more closer away from salt water. It was a freshwater skill back off of the intercoastal waterway, more of a slightly brackish, slightly salty, but fresh water. And so that was more flooding to water those plants and then draining the water off so they can dry and grow. Very similar to growing indigo. Indigo is another crop plant that was brought from the west coast of Africa by the Africans as well. And that would have gave more of the color blue.
Blue, yeah.
So that blue would be very similar to my shirt.
Right.
My shirt would be called, if I was on a porch ceiling, I would be called wearing haint blue. Or if I was to trim around the door or the shutters of a house, that would be also called haint blue. Haint blue would be more of the color of water, color of ocean, that we have a superstitious folklore story known as the boo hag. And boo hags would have been a folklore of being ridden while you laying on the bed. And so that story of being ridden, or that soul being pulled from you, would have been kept away by having blues all around, the blue bottle tree, painting your porch blue, having blue shutters on your house or blue door trims on your house. And so that was keeping the boo hag from coming in, that evil spirit from coming in. And that's an old superstition, old folklore.
Now, rice is big in Asia too, though, isn't it?
Correct.
Is that the same kind of rice? Is that the same concept, or do you know?
Well, the growing process would have been the same, but the rice of Carolinas was known as the long grain rice. That was
really
also called a Carolina gold, that had a golden tint. It wasn't other colors of rice. There's many raw colors of rice: the browns, the reds, beige. There's really no such thing as white rice. White rice has been bleached. White has been bleached. And so the purpose of the rice being cultivated here was because of cash cropping. It was the way of fueling the economy of that time, as the Carolinians the Charleston coast was the #1 rice growing coast of America around the 1700s. They would use that trading and bartering time to then get other goods and items that they would need. So as we grew the rice here, we traded down to the south around the Caribbeans. They were sugarcane growers. They took the sugarcane, they traded it back up to the north around the Boston, New York. They made the whiskeys and the rums and the different alcohols, and that came back down south. And so it was a big trading and bartering circle. Trading and bartering circles would fuel those areas to make Boston a rich city, to make Charleston a rich city, to make Trinidad and Tobago and all those different Caribbeans down in the South wealthy cities at the time, based off of the back of enslaved Africans.
When we talk about rice being what it was, do you know where the rice ports were in the Gullah Geechee area? Are there still remnants? Do they still grow rice down there? That kind of thing?
Not as much. We don't have a lot of rice growing down here anymore, and it's due to the salt water invading those freshwater ponds.
Oh, so really?
Salt water does not allow the rice to grow properly. So you had to go a little further inland to keep that going. There may be 1 or 2 main rice plantations or rice growing fields around the area, but most of it is not grown in Charleston. But to keep the legacy alive, you have 1 or 2 families that want to, patronize that way of living by having raw rices. But way before that, it was done on the west coast of Africa for generations.
Okay.
But as slavery was abolished, they also had less people to work these fields. Okay. And so this was a very labor intensive.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Very labor intensive. And so as the people became freed Africans, then they started working those same fields and plantations as sharecroppers, because they still had to live somewhere.
Yeah.
And so once you became wealthy enough to buy enough property to take your family off the plantation, then that job service kind of dwindled down as well.
Is there when we talk about rice growing, is one occupation more dangerous than the other? What I mean is rice growing more dangerous than picking cotton because of what's in the water or any of that kind of thing? Do you think?
So the growing of the rice and the harvesting of the rice will not be the same water condition. They would harvest the rice when the grounds were dry. They would then, they would water the rice while it was growing. They would have water coming in, water coming out. The cotton picking time, that was just extremely backbreaking, hot, heat. I'm gonna say they're very similar in so many ways, because you wouldn't harvest the rice in water. You would harvest it when the ground was dry. Yeah. But that also is a back-breaking skill set as well. And I would almost say rice was worse.
Oh, really?
I would say rice was worse because rice is heavier. Rice is dense. Cotton is a lighter, if you think of a cotton ball, yes, and you think of the same mass of a cotton ball being 1.5 inches, 2 inches, yes, then you think of 1.5 inches or 2 inches of rice. What's heavier? Rice would be heavier. And so I would visualize rice being even more backbreaking, even more detrimental on the body. And then we also got to think of this direct sun. I mean, it's hot in Charleston.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: is there a particular back in the day? Was there a particular time of year, because you couldn't do cotton all year round because it's only during the harvest? Could you do rice year round, or is there a particular time of the year?
That's gonna be a summer month. So as you had different crops, you grew indigo around the winter months, and that was a cash crop. You grew your raw rices when there wasn't frost on the ground. So then Charleston isn't a city that gets real cold. We get real hot. So if anyone has been down south, been on the coast, they would definitely know what I mean. We have more the mild/hot season than we have cold seasons.
I got you.
We have maybe about a month and a half of cold weather. Now, our cold weather will be nothing compared to a northern state. Yeah. When y'all say cold and we say cold, there's no comparison. Yeah. We get down to low 40s, upper 30s. That's cold to us.
Yeah.
We get to a good frost, and it kills the plant. That also hinders our crops.
Yes. Growing up, when you're growing up, and your grandfather and your father and mothers, and they talked about the Gullah Geechee. Is there a particular story that most people told that resonated with everybody, or that kind of thing? That this is who we are. This is you need to do this. Really. That kind of thing.
Really, for the simple fact, the word Gullah, the word Geechee, is something that's been added to our vocabulary within the past 10, 25 years.
Oh, really?
This lifestyle that we've lived generationally has been a lifestyle that we've been living for generations. By now calling it one secluded name is something that we're doing now fairly new. And I use that term, because of, like me, for instance, I grew up in the 80s. That word wasn't thrown around a whole lot in the 80s.
Oh, really?
That word of Geechee, that lifestyle wasn't one of the major nouns of a culture. Okay. We just knew that we survived on the earth. We knew that we fished a lot. We knew that we did a lot of crabbing. We had our own garden. We knew that, we survived on the earth. We also knew that we had a different sound. Our sound was picked on by those that did not sound like us. And so based on being researched and brought to the awareness and different documentaries and different magazines and different books and different movies to help understand that is a Gullah lifestyle, you're living within the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor, then you start to rename who you are, because now you've been notified, you've been recognized as a culture. But my grandfather, no, he never used the word. I never heard him say we Gullah. I heard him say complaints about living on Dafusky Island and how many snakes they had and how he had to catch food and how he would fish. But he never used the term of I'm Gullah of the 70s and the 80s.
Oh, now, well, are there particular traditions that you all recognize and that you did, like on Sunday or some particular time of the year?
So there are many traditions that we're keeping alive that was done way before my generation. One that really stands out to me is the way we crab. And so crabbing of today is going to be more of a form of a sportsman fishing. You know, crabbing of Gullah heritage is feeding the family, feeding, got to make sure they eat. So with that being said, some people in this call may have used a chicken on a string and tried to crab and get 3-4 crabs in an hour or whatnot of Gullah heritage. And you have to use the oceans and the intercoastals to survive. It was more getting in the pluff mud, walking towards each other, you know, about the length of a football field, and picking up the crabs out of the mud out of the pluff mud as it molted in the sand, grabbing 30, 40 crab in 15 minutes. You know, that was
by hand?
Yeah, you grab it, or you can use a tong. I showed my daughters how my grandfather showed me, and we use a tong, but we can gather 30 to 40 blue crab in about 15, 20 minutes. And you're picking it up to survive. You're picking it up to live. You're not picking it up for sportsman fishing. So with that being said, you weren't really caring about the size, because if you eat it, you eat whatever you can eat to you know.
I got you.
Survive. And then other rituals would be oyster roasts in the yard. That was something, you know, that's nothing to a family to do in the winter months during oyster season, or pig picking, roasting a whole hog. That's nothing to a Gullah family. That's just the way it was. That's the way we got down.
Yeah, and there's no particular address or attire that you, other than maybe blues or something like that, growing up, that you wore. It was regular clothes like anybody else.
It's regular clothes. It's regular clothes. You know, I don't want to paint the picture that we're behind time, because we're not.
Yeah. I got you.
We're up on things.
Yeah.
It's just you're gonna find some culturally connected people that chooses to roast a pig out in the yard instead of going to buy, you know, 10 pounds of pork chop.
Yeah,
you know
okay,
I mean?
I can live with that. Yeah.
Some people choose to go and go oyster raking or clam raking instead of going to the seafood restaurant and blowing $100. You know, so that lifestyle of living Gullah is a choice.
And one more question on it. Now, it's not like now I don't mean no disrespect in this. It's not like Amish where you have limitations in the way you can adjust to American way.
No.
Okay.
We once again we are regular Black folk of the coast that is culturally connected to their ancestry we can say where we're from. So to answer that question a little better, Gullah folk can speak of the area specifically they were enslaved from, becoming culturally connected, saying, I'm Gullah. Or you can live in Atlanta and you can just say, I don't know my ancestry far enough, I'm just Black.
I see.
So being culturally connected is a blessing. To say, I know my ancestry, we're people, we're all people we're all immigrants. We all came into America, and you know, the Blacks didn't push the Native Americans out, but we became to live with them, become with them. But Gullah folk would be the people that can say, I'm culturally connected. We're proud of who we are.
I got you.
We are the descendants of Africans. We're living this lifestyle because we not only are proud to be a part of it, we're also proud to keep it alive.
Is there someone or a person that is the most recognized from historian? Now, as a Gullah person who everybody says he's the one that kept it alive for everybody. He's the one that, or she is the one who promotes it.
I'm gonna say yes. There's a group of people of every generation. And so the generation before myself, I'm 40. So the generation before myself, let's say, they said a generation is 20 to 25 years. So let's say those 55-year-olds, 60-year-olds, that generation, there's a group of them that have been cultural keepers. I can name about, you know, six to 10 of them, you know, like that.
I got you.
No problem. There's going to be a generation of my era born in the 80s that's going to be culture keepers, you know, and they're still forming because they're still the babies of the culture. There's going to be another generation of millennials, and they'll be culture keepers. So out of respect for everyone as a whole, they are generational culture keepers, and he or she really didn't sign up for it. They just end up falling into these shoes.
I got you. I got you. Now, what you do now with the basket weaving? What's the official name for it? Is
Gullah,
there one? Say it again.
Gullah Sweetgrass baskets.
Oh, Sweetgrass baskets. What is the material that you use to do the weaving?
So we use 4 materials. The 4 materials are harvested, laid to sun dry. The red is pine needle. The lighter grass is the main material known as sweetgrass. And then the darker brown is bulrush. The threading would be the state tree of South Carolina. So these materials were similar grasses that the enslaved found when they were brought into the Carolinas, into the Georgias, into the Floridas, into the North Carolinas. And so one town has been credited for keeping it alive for over 300 years, but they're not the only town that ever did it. And so with that being said, you had the James, the Johns, the Edisto, the Sapelo, the Brunswick, the Myrtle Beach, the Conway, you know, I can go on and on and on different towns of our culture. But Mount Pleasant, where I'm from, has been known for keeping it alive the longest. So they take the credit for the heritage because of that. Mount Pleasant is also the area that's credited for having the sweetgrass basket stands along Highway 17. Around the 40s and the 50s, the ladies went out, and that was a form of supplemental income to the homes, as that guy may have been a blacksmith or a brick mason, or he could have worked at the port, or he could have been a painter, or you know, what have you. And she would have her hand skilled that was kept alive within women, and that's how it was for basket weavers. Basket weavers were mostly known as ladies only, showing from mother to daughter. And showing from that mother to daughter skill, that's why we have more basket weavers as ladies than we have men. Men are more behind the scenes. There's not a lot of men basket weavers in my community. It could be, you know, a handful to hundreds of ladies. And that's because the ladies are the keepers of that skill set. The ladies are the that's been awesomely passing from grandmother to granddaughter, mother to daughter, that trade.
Now, the materials that you mentioned, are they grown wild, and they're like in a particular, you know, in the bush area or something where you can get the different things that you mentioned?
Just exactly what you said. Yes, they are wild. They are marsh grasses. We gather the materials at low tide. We let it sun dry. Once it sun dries, then we can use it. It dries for about 2 to 3 weeks. Once it's dried, since it is a salt grass, a saltwater material, it kind of cures itself by letting it sun dry, almost like curing meat. And then once we can put it in a dry place, it keeps until we can use it. Gullah baskets are known to last 100+ years. Really? All you doing is wiping it down with tap water. These behind me are utilitarian tools. These have nothing to do with art. We've made it into an art because we're not using it for the functions that they were used during days of enslavement. So with us keeping it alive generationally, it becomes art. Yes. But based on the history, it was all based on necessity that the plantations needed to use.
Can you weave it so tight, let's say, that water doesn't get through?
So yes and no. So some artisans will have a hand that strong that can pull it that tight. I would still recommend for them to soak it once, and then it will swell like a canoe. Then the next time, no water would get through.
Oh, really?
And so because some artisans just won't pull it that tight at all. Some artisans do pull it that tight, but to way of securing that water doesn't get through, you would want to wet it first and let it swell. And but in today's time, we're not making them to hold water. You know,
I got you.
But we are making them at its highest quality. We're making them at this highest caliber. But to say, put a gallon of water in it and soak some tea bags in it, no, they're not made for that.
Yeah, I got you.
They are made to transport fruits and vegetables from one area to another. They are made for that. They are made for storing grains, corns, rices, beans, they are made for that. They are made for winnowing rice or bread baskets or fruit bowls, or in today's time, we use more of the pieces for jewelry, keys, change, or candies.
I got you. Now you showed the baskets there behind you, but you showed the flat one. What was the flat? Is that more? Was there a use for that you? And I think you said
that's the most historic. That's the most traditional. The flat one right here behind me, it ranges in between 18 and 24 inches. It's properly known as a rice fanning basket. So the fanners were used during that time of enslavement just to throw rices in the air, more like a something like that. As he threw the rices in the air, the shaft would have bounced off of it, blown away in the fresh air. The rice grains would have been heavier. That would have fell into the basket because that was heavier. That process is called winnowing rice. Every ethnic culture has some type of winnowing of something. So that'd be, you spoke of earlier, Asians, there's Native Americans. You had Native Americans using the winnowing process for seed pods. You have some people that just as simple as panning for gold. And so cleaning rices or cleaning beans or taking every ethnic culture had a winnowing basket for some sort, some pattern. The style is going to be more like a plate. This here would have had a little legs on it. I'm sorry, little walls on it.
Right.
And that would have been thrashing. You can see this one behind me has walls on it. But every ethnic culture had a winnowing basket of some type.
Have you all incorporated as a new tradition some other materials to make it more colorful, or do you use metals? You know what I mean? Any of that kind of thing.
That's gonna be personal preference. The traditional families would not have done nothing like putting metals in it. Traditional families don't add any dyes to it. You will find some artisans that choose to, but once again, this is art of today. So the art of today allows whatever person to be artsy. There's no one looking down on a person putting metals or using a synthetic plastic.
I got you.
Because it is art today. And so
I got you. Just a couple more questions. Are there, and I know the flat ones are probably, but is there a standard style
that goes back
that is those, that's the style that they did then, and it still goes through today in terms of the style?
Yeah, that's gonna be the flat one. And then anything else other than that flat one or the plate style fanning basket would be anything of simplicity. So the plainer the patterns are, the older the styles are. For instance, this big one.
Yeah.
This big one that has a simpler, plainer rim. That's going to be more traditional.
Okay.
Unlike this one. Okay. You see the one I just now tapped at?
Yeah.
That's going to be considered more artsy. So what makes the pieces traditional or contemporary is going to be based on the simplicity. When we leave them a plainer design, that's an older shape. So that can date back, before days of enslavement.
Yeah.
When we become more fancier, putting little braids around the rim or putting a fancy little handle on it, that makes it more modern, more contemporary of today.
You're good at this. How long does it take you to make some basket, like the ones you got there? How long might that take?
So something like this here and get done right about 6 weeks. The average weaver, he or she is putting in, 10 to 13 hours daily. And that's because the skill set is very time consuming, extremely time consuming. For instance, this hot pad, this charger gets something like that done right about 9 hours on a piece like this from start to finish, starting in that center.
Yeah.
And building around the center as we use all natural grasses, no synthetics. It's a very time consuming skill set, but the great thing about it is once it's woven, it lasts forever.
Your hands, your fingers, you got to make sure you don't get carpal tunnel or something like that.
I got it in both wrists.
Oh, really?
That's all. You know how they say that's all a part of the job.
Yeah.
My job could be a whole lot worse. I could be a guy that hoping some metal beam don't fall down on me.
Yeah, sure.
I'm hoping I don't fall asleep at the wheel as I drive 18-wheeler. My job has its dangers, but the danger is in the risks. you know, and so I do have carpal tunnel on both wrists that in the winter months I sleep with a brace.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
so you're good at this, and I saw you online. You've got awards and that kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about the recognition you've gotten for this. Don't brag on it, man. You family now, brother.
I didn't tell you I was good at this, you know. But since you don't pull me up and research me,
yes.
I've been blessed. You know, I'm gonna say it that way. I've been blessed to have a nice stitch, you know, a great visual of art. I've been blessed, and so you'll find my work in the Charleston's new International Afro-American Museum. I did a piece for them. I did a piece for the Smithsonian in DC and the American Art Museum. I'm sorry, yep, the American Art Museum, the Renwick Gallery. I have a piece in there on a permanent display. I have another very large piece down at the Charleston Visitor Center. So I've been blessed that people love my work enough to want my work to be in their galleries and in museums. But if you didn't ask me that question, I'm more the culture keeper of preserving, protecting, and keeping alive the culture itself. What I do as an artist, I'm doing the level of weaving that I'm at because I want people to keep the Gullah conversation alive. And so as you walk into the Smithsonian's and the this museum and the that museum and this building and that new building, it keeps the conversation of those Charleston folk that has been keeping that skill alive for over 300 years. You know, that's really my passion, is to make pieces that doesn't allow people to forget who we are.
I got you. Is there I don't know, this idea came to mind. Can people make hats out of those?
Oh yeah.
Yes, I just thought of that.
If you check out my business Facebook, I'll say it slow for those that want to check it out.
Tell us that, and website and everything.
It is Corey Alston Gullah Sweetgrass Baskets. That's Gullah. And in that profile picture, I'm wearing a hat. And you can learn more about the Gullah heritage by using my website, and that's thegullahculture.com. You can check that out. I load that full of history, full of understanding. If you're a person of Instagramming, you can find me under Corey Alston Sweetgrass. So we're very active. I'm extremely active on preservation, because if we don't preserve it, I did speak earlier about every generation has a culture keeper. Yes. I didn't sign up for this job. It's just, I guess I do it halfway decent.
Yes, and you do. Even more.
People ask me to speak about it.
Yeah, I love it. You full-time at it?
Full-time. This is all I do.
Full-time at it, yeah. Let me ask you this. The Gullah Geechee Festival is this weekend, isn't it?
So every little community has a festival. We party year round on the celebration of our culture. We're so proud to be a part of it. And so the largest Sweetgrass Basket Festival would be July 23rd, but Beaufort, Hilton Head, the Fusky Island, Georgetown, all of our surrounding Gullah communities, they have festivals all the time.
Okay, do they? Okay, good. Well, hey, man, I appreciate let me ask you this. Is there a question that I have not asked you? Anything come to mind or something like that?
I think we've covered it. You know what I will say before we get off is, if you have a Gullah basket, take a damp rag to it once or twice a year.
Okay.
And that, so it doesn't get dry or brittle. It's actually great for it. I would also say, for those that are inquisitive of this culture, of this lifestyle, or you want to take a piece with you, try to find a weaver and patronize their business, because that's also what keeps this skill set alive, is as we're able to make these pieces of labor intensive skill set, we also need to move the product. And so
sure.
Wants to do another video, another Zoom of a different basket weaver, pull them on the show. Yeah. Because the more we can keep it on, the more we can keep it alive, the more we can stay in the limelight.
I love it. One more thing, man. That necklace, man. What's the necklace? What's the story behind that?
Well, so I got this in one of the Caribbean islands.
Okay.
Coco Amberger. I just enjoy wearing Afro jewelry, and so if I'm not wearing this one, I'm wearing another one.
Yeah, but, I love it.
it's just who I am as a you know?
Okay, I didn't know if that was something to. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate you doing this with me, because you've enlightened me a whole lot. And on the craft, so on and so forth. We're gonna talk offline. Maybe I got some hookup, in some capacities. And so everybody hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations, man. I found the expert. And check it out. And my viewers, y'all might have heard him say this. He ain't really doing it for the money. He's doing it to keep the culture alive. And the money is coming. I'm you got to eat, sleep, drink, stuff like that. Wife, you got to take care of. She want diamonds and all that other stuff. I know how that go. But that's the motivation. And you can chime in this. You could have said, I don't like this lifestyle. Growing up, you could have said that. I want to move away. I want to go to the big city and stuff like that. But you've embraced this.
Yeah.
I love it. So to you, my brother, I say, go ahead.
I love my area. I love my community.
I love it. To you, I say this with all sincerity, and I mean this, my friend. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love that you love what you do.
I appreciate you.
Came on here, man. Thank you so very much. Give us the website again, how people can support you.
So website is thegullahculture.com. And that's TheGullah culture.com.
There you go. Thank you so much. Everybody check him out. Get one of them baskets. You ship all over the country, I'm sure.
All over the world.
All over the world. There it is. Boom. There it is. Everybody. Anthony Brogdon, I'm coming at you. Like I said, I know you're going to hit the like button on this one. He did a good job for sure. Thanks, my man, for coming on. I appreciate you. Stay strong.
Y'all be blessed.
All right. Bye-bye.